This is going to be a short video introducing two new ways to make associations. So the first is useful in the scenario where we have a list of the keys and a list of the corresponding values. And this function is called association thread, and it takes two inputs. One is a list of the keys. The first is the list of the keys. The second is a list of the values. Okay, I'm just making these up. And so that produces an association where the ith element in the key list goes to the ith element in the values list. Hey, like this. Another example is, what if we have a function that determines what should the value of B be, or what should the value of C be? So here's an example. And the function to use in this scenario is AssociationMap. And the first argument is the function, and the second argument is the list of keys. So for example, let's do table I for I up to 10. So 1 goes to f of 1, 2 goes to f of 2, and so on. So just as a more realistic example of this, or before I do that, let me give one example with a pure function. So I could do pound cubed ampersand. Okay, don't forget the ampersand. You always need that for a pure function. So now the key 4 goes to the value 4 cubed, 64. Here's maybe a more sophisticated example. Say, remember how this counts worked. So it took as input a list, and as output returned an association saying, what are all the elements in the list? Those were the keys. And how often do they occur? Those are the values. So let me do my list equals random integer 0 to 10, give me 20 of them. And let's get counts of my list. But what if so this is definitely the easiest way, using this built-in function, of course. But how could we do that using this association map idea? Well, let's try. So I'm going to do association map. And then what are the keys going to be? Let me do that first. Well, the keys are exactly the elements without repetitions that occur in my list. So we can do delete duplicates of my list. And then what is the function going to be? What is the function that determines the values? Like, what's the function that says 1 should have value 4? Well, let's go through and count how often that element occurs. And you see 1 occurs 4 times in this list. So the function could be count. And within my list, I want to count pound. Because remember, this pound, that's going to be like the variable. It's going to be like the keys. And so this produces the exact same association as the counts built-in function produces. So notice this difference. This one is counts with an S. This one is count singular. So there it takes two inputs. First input is a list. Second input is what do we want to count. And then that's going to get applied to each of the elements in delete duplicates, my list. So for example, first it gets applied to 1, then it gets applied to 4, then it gets applied to 0. So in the 4 case, we do count my list comma 4. How often did 4 occur in my list? It occurred twice. Okay, once, twice. And so then that's this output. That's this value here for the key 4.